Here's your basic stance to go crosswind. Here's how you change your position to go upwind, and here how you change it to go downwind. Now, it is simple, but the amount of freedom of movement that you have might mean that you won't easily find these motions against all the possibilities. So, here's a breakdown for you. Controlling your course, the sailing angle, with the wing is actually a compound of different elements. They are wings orientation, wings angle of attack, wings position, pressure on the board. First of all, the wing needs to be correctly oriented, so aiming as forward as possible. This is just to have a component of the force pulling you forward and therefore allowing you to take some speed and move. If you need a review, check the wing control video. Then we have the angle of attack. Increasing the angle of attack, sheeting in, will automatically make you go more upwind. This is simply because when you're sheeting in, you're changing the wing's center slightly towards the back of the board. This also happens on sailing boats, which is a good example to illustrate this because there is no rider that can shift the dynamics by pressing on the board, and the other variables regarding the sail are fixed. Simply by sheeting in or sheeting out, you will obtain a few degrees of change in your course. The reason this happens is because the wing is pulling this way, and so if you move it more towards the back, the board rotates. But you may have noticed that the wing tends to stay more towards the nose of the board, so if anything it should rotate the other way. But the force of the wing is transmitted to the board by you, and we'll see that in a second. Anyways, by this mechanism, you can see that if you were to actually move the sail more towards the back, you would increase this effect even more. This is a well-known mechanism for all windsurfers, where you can literally move the sail to the back to go upwind and vice versa move it to the front to go downwind. And finally, we have the pressure that the rider exerts on the board through the feet. There are two factors influencing the pressure that goes on the board. One is simply your body weight, and the other is the pull of the wing. When something's pulling you, if you don't want to fly away with it, you have to point your feet. There is a force that depends on the force of the pull. Now, how do you control all of these elements at once to obtain the result you want? Well, in the end, all these elements are actually just one, your position. So here I've just broken it down for you to understand that with your body position, you have to control these four elements all at once, but you can focus on them one by one to learn. Now, at the beginning, we want to focus especially on going upwind because this is the course that enables us to gain ground over the constant drifting and to make you understand the dynamic of how the four elements we just talked about all come together. Let's start with one observation. If you try on the beach to hold the wing in power position and move it to the back, you feel a really strong resistance against the wind, which is exactly the force that when you're on the board, it makes it turn upwind. The element that really needs most of your attention is maintaining the wing's orientation. Because if you maintain the wing's orientation so that it aims forward, then this motion automatically increases the angle of attack of the wing, moves the wing towards the back of the board, and makes you push on the back foot. Once you do this motion on the board, what will happen will not be that you move the wing towards the back, but really is the back of the board that gets closer to the wing because of the push of your back foot. The wing instead remains with the same relationship with respect to the wind. So when you're on the board in the water, your motion is somewhat similar to what you do on the beach, but instead of pulling the wing towards the back, you're actually pulling the back of the board more downwind towards the wing by pulling on the boom, and like this, the nose of the board is now aiming more upwind. This is how it works. It's the board that moves. And whenever you change your course, this always holds true. Given the same angle of attack, the wing doesn't really change with respect to the wind. It's always the board that's turning. So what you're doing in order to control your course with the wing is basically pulling on the boom in order to have the power in your feet to move the extremities of the board where you want them to go. Just like I'm doing here, but my fixed point is not the counter, but the boom. So this is my range from fully upwind to fully downwind. Notice the relationship between the counter and the board. This holds true also in the water. When the boom is at this angle with the board, you're going crosswind. Here you're going downwind, and here you're going upwind. Now, most teachers prefer to keep it easy and only explain you the simple rule of wing to the back to go upwind and wing to the front to go downwind. But if this explanation worked perfectly for windsurf, in wingfoil it can leave the student a little doubtful. And that's because when you move the wing to one side or the other, maintaining the wing in a correct orientation can feel a little unnatural as a muscular effort. And as I said earlier, if you lose the orientation, you lose the entire control. So sometimes you will see students that try to move the wing to the back, but they oriented vertically and they still go downwind. So they ask themselves, why if I move the wing to the back, I'm not going upwind? And now you know. You just lost the good orientation. And as I said, this is because the muscular effort you need to do is a little strange, so you need to accustom your body to it. Also, another important point, which is a make or break element of controlling your course, is where are your feet actually pressing? If you're trying to go upwind, here pressing on the toes of the back foot and the toes are past the midline and on the downwind side of the board, then despite creating a force that's, yes, turning the board where we want, you're also making the board lean downwind, which makes it curve downwind, and so it's fighting against you. Also, along the vertical axis of the board, your back foot placement is super important. If it is too close to the center, it will not really have that much force to make the board rotate and take an upwind course. The further back you place it, the more leverage it will have towards the rotation of the board. If you go way too far back, even a very small amount of force will make the board turn upwind very drastically. So you'll have to find the perfect spot where you have the right amount of leverage. Then, in order for you to exert the right pressure on your feet to control your course, different people will feel more comfortable with different body twist options. With regards to crosswind and downwind courses, the same freedom of twisting your body wherever you want remains there. But generally, it is a lot more intuitive to put yourself in a position that works. So here I'm focusing more on the upwind course because that's where normally problems arise. Some prefer to twist the hips towards the nose because this helps their muscle engagement from the shoulders and arms to keep the wing at the back, and this allows them to transfer the power to the back foot, which is what makes the board rotate upwind. But other people prefer to keep the hips facing as perpendicular as possible to the nose because this makes their arms remain more straight towards the wing, and they use more their core strength in order to transfer the power to the back foot. Both options are totally valid, they just depend on what type of muscle engagement comes more natural to you. Controlling sailing angle with the wing is a foundational skill you need in order to fly, and is really part of the broader topic of wing control, which has to be learned in conjunction with things like controlling balance with the wing and leaning back importance. So, dig into these other videos, they're all part of a playlist called Technical Knowledge for Beginners. Get passionate about understanding everything properly and keep flying.
Everybody just get